Yesterday, we saw the Proud Boys rally in Portland, and this is the event that I had been warning about, and I have some good news. My concern for the most part was that Antifa would show up, they would fight each other, people would get hurt, and things could potentially escalate. But the actual terrifying moment where a Black Lives Matter organizer was arrested on attempted murder charges actually happened in California. Didn't happen in Portland. In fact, the most of what I can see in Portland is you had some arguments, but the police kept everybody separated from a decent ways away. There were some instances where some journalists got hassled by some right-wing groups. There were some instances where journalists got hassled by Antifa and left-wing groups. Seemed like Portland, for the most part, was not that big of a deal. And so I got to say, it seems like the Proud Boys took a victory on that one. I had been warning for some time that it was going to escalate into violence. And then the media was going to say, oh, the right, and they're going to blame everything on the right, even though they ignore 100+ days of Antifa, all that rioting and violence from Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And of course, the Proud Boys won this one from a PR standpoint. You see, their goal was to point at the hypocrisy. As soon as they announced they were coming, state of emergency, they announced they can use tear gas again. Why? The Proud Boys? But they had 100+ nights of rioting, and it's still going on now. And get this, in Seattle, where Antifa and Black Lives Matter rioters went around smashing everything up, there's video going viral of these people like doing donuts in the street because there's no cops, because the cops are preoccupied. And there's a really scary story. I don't know if it's related, but it comes from LA, where someone broke into a police station and tried to kill a cop. So that one doesn't sound like it's political. But considering what's going on in California, considering what's happening now, a lot of people are shocked by this and they're sharing it. So I'll stress that point. We don't know what the motivation was, as I normally say, unless we have evidence. But this is the really scary story. A Black Lives Matter organizer plowed her car into a crowd of Trump supporters in California, injuring 2, before she is arrested and charged with attempted murder. Now, I can already hear the people screaming, Tim, why don't you ever talk about when these right-wingers crash their cars? Okay, well, I do. But the problem is most of what we see when it comes to a left-wing rioter or protester getting, hit by a car, all of these stories have been, well, look, for one, you had the people dancing on the highway in, was that in Seattle? Dancing on the highway at night. And some dude went on the highway, wasn't supposed to, but the police shouldn't let people dance on the highway. How stupid do you have to be? And then 2 people got hit, and it was shocking, and it was sad, and it was tragic, and I wish they didn't get hurt. But these things happen. The guy driving the car was not politically motivated. Then you have these other stories, like in Hollywood, where the car slowly moves through the crowd. They chase after and attack the vehicle. Not politically motivated. These people are not, they're just regular people like, I have no idea what's going on. Dude bumbling down the highway, and there's all of a sudden a roadblock, and he's like, whoa, and he swerves, and there's people dancing in the street. And of course, they try and play this game where they're like, it was the white supremacist. It wasn't. They're regular people. This story, attempted murder, Black Lives Matter organizer plowed her car into a group of Trump supporters in California, injuring 2. One guy, you can see his ankle is visibly broken, dangling. And they were standing in a parking lot. They weren't standing in the street. Now, listen. You got all these Trump supporters surrounding a vehicle. I don't know exactly why. So I can't necessarily, criticize any intent because I don't know what their intent was. When it comes to the rioters, we know what their intent is. We watch them swarm vehicles, are banging on them. In this instance, you see a choppy video where the vehicle just plows through people in a parking lot and then pulls out in the street. The individual gets arrested immediately. Now, Trump supporters did chase after the vehicle and someone smashed out the window, and they should not have done that. I get it. It's like a mob mentality thing. But listen, they're going to show that video and say they were being attacked. She was being attacked, you see. This is the way they cheat. A regular person is driving down the street and they start attacking the vehicle. In Provo, Utah, a guy gets shot. And then when that person drives through, they say, see, look, it's a right-wing tactic. That's what the Daily Beast said. Right-wing tactic. Oh, is it? Black Lives Matter organizer uses right-wing tactic. It's ridiculous. So don't give them the propaganda they want. Now, I don't know why why they were around her in the parking lot. They may have just been in a parking lot cheering. I don't know. I will say to people, don't swarm cars even in a parking lot. The story from the Daily Mail. A Black Lives Matter organizer has been arrested after video shows her driving a car into a crowd of Trump supporters in Southern California, injuring two. Driver Tatiana Turner, 40, of Long Beach, was arrested and charged with attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon following the incident on Saturday in the city of Yorba Linda, about 30 miles southeast of downtown LA. The chaos unfolded as about 250 people gathered, some with a group called Caravan for Justice supporting Black Lives Matter, and others to stage a nearby counter-protest supporting President Donald Trump. Federal records show that Turner filed a trademark application for Caravan for Justice in July, and a GoFundMe campaign names her as the group's founder. Police confirmed that Turner is believed to be a member of the Caravan for Justice. Well, it sounds like she started it. It was around 3 p.m., police say, when a car in the parking lot of the Yorba Linda Public Library at 18181 Imperial Highway accelerated into the road and struck at least two individuals. We can see this video after the fact. They chased after the vehicle. Someone threw something into the back. You can see some people on the ground. Here's the video of her getting arrested. You can see someone smashed her windshield and smashed up the back window. I do not believe that happened until after she had already run through people. Say federal records show that she is a Caravan for Justice. Oh my God. A woman is heard screaming on video as the white Nissan Versa accelerates into the crowd, knocking the demonstrators to the pavement and speeding away. Furious crowd members chased the car, hitting it with flagpoles. But within seconds, police intervened, taking the female driver into custody. The two injured people, a man and a woman, were taken to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, said Carrie Braun, spokeswoman for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Okay, so I'll tell you this. This is horrifying, okay? But the alternative, what I was worried about, relatively, I'm kind of relieved, but it's also kind of messed up that I would be. So here's what I'm saying. I was really worried that in Portland, it was going to be, people were going to be dead. Let me show you what they're saying in Portland. Check this out. Rest in piss, Jay. This city kills fascists and Proud Boys. And a sickle and a hammer. There are people celebrating the execution of a Trump supporter. Celebrating it. And so when you see things like that, and you know what these people want to do and what they're happy with, I was really, really worried. And I feel like we got off light with a car injuring a couple people with non-life-threatening injuries. But we shouldn't think that way. We should not let the extremism be normalized. This is shocking and insane. We're not talking about a regular person driving down the street, encountering a giant mob, and then being attacked by that mob and fleeing, or driving through the mob. We're talking about Trump supporters in a parking lot and a Black Lives Matter organizer plowing through them. Attempted murder charges. That to me is scary. But the scary part about it is that we are entering normalization territory. This is not even like a leading story. This should be huge. I remember you may remember what happened with NPR. They showed this image of a car hitting a Black Lives Matter rioter. And then it said like an increasing tactic where people, are plowing into protesters. And they had to issue some kind of correction or whatever, because the image they picked actually depicted a woman who was physically assaulted by these people and then panicked and tried fleeing. Once again, Black Lives Matter are the aggressors. They're the ones attacking the regular people in their cars. They're the ones who are targeting the Trump supporters and trying to run them over. Oh, I know what happened in Charlottesville. I think we all remember that. It happened. And that guy deserves no excuses. But that's not what's happening right now. So they call it a right-wing tactic. I think it's hilarious. They're going to say the incident occurred as members of Black Lives Matter demonstrated against police brutality. We get it. They're not protesting police brutality, man. Spare me. I don't want to hear these excuses. I don't know what they're protesting, but they're certainly not protesting whatever they claim to be. They say counter-protesters crossed the 6-lane Imperial Highway and confronted the Black Lives Matter protesters, authorities said. The protesters also confronted each other in the parking lot of the Yorba Linda Public Library. No excuses for anyone. None. If Black Lives Matter is holding their rally and a bunch of Trump supporters want to walk over there, you started it. That's what Antifa does. Instigate the violence and instigate the fight. Don't give them that, because they're the ones who are typically starting the fights. But I'll tell you this. I don't care who's doing it. You can have your rally. But if you want to go and confront people and then a fight breaks out, don't be surprised what happens next. That's no excuse for someone ramming their car through a group of Trump supporters in a parking lot, however. And they go on to say that a white sedan went through the crowd in the parking lot or the exit of the parking lot. What was it? What? A white sedan went, copy editor, guys. People chased the car as it tried to drive away, and it was eventually stopped and was surrounded by police. The Register reported it was not known how fast the car was going. The back windshield had been broken out, and it had a flagpole sticking out of it. The front windshield was smashed. The Register reported. I'm not all about this. I'm not we have an official statement I got to read from the OC sheriff. I'm not going to give anybody defend anybody who wants to go and engage in a conflict and don't go smashing up windows. Again, Black Lives Matter organizer seems to be the aggressor as far as I can tell from the evidence. Maybe that's not the case, but don't hit people with your car in a political conflict. All right. And if you've got regular people in a parking lot, let them leave. So I don't know why these people were surrounding this vehicle, but to be fair, y'all should leave. However, like I said, they were in a parking lot. It's hard to know exactly what happened. I'm trying to make sure I have all the facts right, but I know the left is going to start saying they play this dirty game where they're like, why won't you criticize, the other side? And it's like, well, they were in a parking lot at a library. It's not regular people. And you guys are choosing to engage in this political conflict. You see what I mean? Like if Black Lives Matter chooses to bring their car over there, or there's an active political conflict and they choose to drive through people, that is part of their active political conflict. When a regular person has no idea what's going on, it's a different story. So the OC sheriff says protests today in Yorba Linda resulted in 2 arrests and injuries to multiple people and a vehicle driving into a crowd, striking and causing major injury to 2 people. The driver was arrested for attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon. The release says, a protest today resulted in 2 arrests and injuries to multiple individuals. On September 17th, the Orange County Sheriff's Department became aware of a protest planned in the city of Yorba Linda for today at 2 p.m. by a group called Caravan for Justice. Shortly after, a counter-protest was planned for the same time. Deputies were present at the beginning of the protests to protect the constitutional rights of all individuals and to protect life and property. Just after the beginning of the protest, it is estimated there were approximately 150 individuals total. Approximately 30 minutes after the protests began, we began to receive reports of physical altercations occurring between the 2 protest groups, including at least 1 individual who was pepper sprayed by another protester. At that time, the crowd grew to approximately 250 protesters. Due to the physical altercations and reports of individuals within the crowd having weapons, an unlawful assembly was declared and a dispersal order was issued. One man, Jason Mancuso, 46 of Anaheim, was arrested for failure to obey a dispersal order. At approximately 3 p.m., after several dispersal orders, a vehicle in the parking lot of the Yorba Linda Public Library struck at least 2 individuals. The driver, believed to be part of Caravan for Justice, continued to leave the parking lot and was detained a short distance away from the incident. The 2 people struck, a man and a woman, believed to be at the protest, were transported to a nearby hospital with major injuries, but are expected to survive. The driver, Tatiana Turner, 40 of Long Beach, was arrested. She will be booked into the Orange County Jail for attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon, and the investigation is ongoing. The Orange County Sheriff's Department requested mutual aid, and mutual agencies from across Orange County responded immediately to assist. We'd like to thank the outside agencies who responded. By 4:30 p.m., the crowd had dispersed and all roads to the city were reopened. Now, I want to show you this from the Seattle Police Department. Protesters have wound their way through the city, causing damage along the way. Group is now at Broadway and Pine. Avoid the area if possible. People in the group have now set fires at 11 and Pine. A dispersal order has been issued to the crowd at 11th Street, Pine, due to public safety concerns. Crowd has also begun throwing bottles. I think you get it. We're facing ongoing riots. They don't seem to be stopping. And it tends to be the left that are the aggressors. But this paves the way for something else entirely. Whatever this is. Cole Miller is a journalist with Como News reporting. Just another Saturday night outside the Space Needle. The silver G8 is loud. There have been at least 150 people now out of their cars watching. People took over an intersection and began just peeling out and doing donuts in their cars. He says the dude must have fresh tires. He's absolutely slaying them while throwing flames from his exhaust. The crowd cheered loudly once he finally stopped. A few near misses between the Mustang and Chevy truck just now. Given that police are tied up with protesters, I'm guessing this is a low priority. No sign of cops over the course of the last half hour. Normally, we do our live shots from the balcony. Not tonight. It's been Close to an hour since this kicked off, a newer Camaro now getting in on the action. Update. Here we go. The driver of the red Mustang just hit multiple people and at least one car. Its back bumper is hanging off. People are now jumping on another car. Wow. Here's the moment the Mustang hit those people. I can't show it on YouTube. You know, people complain. They're like, Tim will pull up the Twitter, but he never plays the video. I can't. YouTube will delete it. So at least you can see something, right? Apologies, man. It's been a little over an hour now. No cops in sight. So for now, there's a dose of early 90s German engineering. Another person was just hit, this time by the driver of the red Campari. This is crazy. This is what's happening in the streets of Seattle. This is lawlessness. You see, the rioters and the protesters are basically stripping resources. This is what you get when you defund police. Forgive me for being a liberal and not a staunch libertarian or far leftist who wants to defund the police. You know, I talk to conservatives. They say, nope, we need cops. You talk to regular liberals. Yeah, we need cops. Libertarians, not so much. The leftists, defund the police. Why? Well, they want power. I'm sorry, man. Look at what's going on. This is what you get when the rioters take over your city. It's not even about, you know what we focus on too much? We focus too much on the fact that they're going around smashing things up. The real issue is that they're straining police resources, and then these people are allowed to basically do whatever they want. No one can stop them. There's no cops in sight. Nobody cares. And now people are being hit. And that's the real issue. You know, and then you see stories. We got this story from LA. I'm going to come back to this one and see what happened. But you got the story from LA. An officer was pistol whipped and shot at, got a graze wound, I guess, because someone broke into the police department. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with anything. People are sharing it. They're shocked by it. It is shocking. It could be part of this anti-cop sentiment, the defund the police narrative that's going far and wide. I'm sure it contributes. People are really mad at cops. We don't know for sure. And I don't know if it has anything to do with police resources being strained. But I can say, you know, when you see things like this in Seattle, you have to just assume, okay? And it may not be correct, but you assume. If these riots are happening across the country, then police resources are being consumed. So when you hear about this increase in the increase in shootings and violence that's taking place in big cities like New York and Minneapolis, could it be that you won't stop rioting? So police are dealing with that instead of dealing with all of the other crime? I'll put it this way. Rioting is a crime. And when people go out and riot every single day, that is a massive and dramatic escalation of the crime the police have to be dealing with on a daily basis. You then defund the police, so there's less of them and less resources to actually deal with this. And then crime in general is just way up. Petty crime, larceny, things like that may be down. Sure. But what we're seeing is that this crime, to me, is on par with the riots. It is essentially the same thing. It's just reckless endangerment, wanton destruction, people spinning around, hitting people, crashing their cars. And the people running around smashing things aren't doing it for any real reason either. So Cole Miller says, seconds after that person was hit, another Camaro enters the ring. In the midst of the donut spinning, the driver popped at least one rear tire. Look, this is crazy. Here we go. And here comes Seattle PD. The white Camaro has a flat. Someone brought out a jack to swap the wheel out, and now a white truck is doing donuts. What an evening it's been. Pit crew working to change out that tire. Tandem donuts continue. Police blaring sirens. They're not able to get anywhere remotely close to the action because there are cars literally parked down Broad all the way to Denny. This is crazy. Look at this. Here's the clip of the second spectator collision. I can't show it. Look at this. Now begins in the very slow moving, very congested, very rev heavy caravan out here. I sincerely hope that no one was seriously hurt. Thanks for following along. He says, and while I shouldn't have to say it, I will. This was not related to any protests happening in Seattle tonight. These sideshows go down once or twice a month, at least during the summer months. Sure. And like he said earlier on, the police are occupied with the riots and the protesters, which we can see going around smashing things up last night. You take this, and there's a natural conclusion. I think a lot of these people want to say, oh, no, it's not the protests. Okay, listen, there's a finite amount of cops, there's a finite amount of time and cars. And so it's no surprise to me the police weren't able to come down and shut this down. I've seen videos like this before, so I'm not going to pretend like it's a new thing. But when the riots happen, when the clashes happen, when people are ramming cars into people, Then you get strained police resources. Combine that with defund the police, and it's just general lawlessness. I'm not a fan. I like things to be chill. But I'll tell you what. Last night, seeing what happened with the Proud Boys and no dramatic escalation since the shooting, I'm actually feeling a bit more hopeful that things won't be too crazy moving forward, especially with the election, because there was every opportunity for these groups to go insane, and they didn't. And that's good. Now, look, I get it. I don't expect the Proud Boys to, because they have a hierarchy in a sense, and they're tactical, right? If the Proud Boys give instructions to all of their members, don't do this, don't do that, they won't. Some might. Some right-wing groups, individual might show up, someone along with them and act a fool. Antifa has no control. They're just running around smashing things. So the Proud Boys are aware of this, and they try to make sure to de-escalate things. There was one incident, I don't want to get too specific, where, or I'll just put it this way. There have been several instances where, right-wing groups have, given the business to journalists or live streamers. And then you'll see Enrique Tarrio, the chairman of the Proud Boys, telling them to knock it off. And then people chill immediately. When I was in Boston, there was two factions. There was Antifa with bats and clubs. There was the right-wing groups with shields. And the 3%ers who were out there were holding back the right-wing group. Isn't that something special? The left-wing group, armed with clubs and bats, were just standing there itching for a fight. And some of them walked over. And the 3%ers kept the right-wing groups back. Why? Because they want to make sure they're following the rules and not starting the fights. And even with that, I don't care what you think about their ideology. Sure, fine. They're not starting the fights for the most part. It looks like in Yorba Linda, they actually crossed over to confront the protesters. That makes me livid. I can't stand it when Antifa does it, and I don't want to hear that anybody else is doing it either, because I feel the exact same way. You cross over and you start a fight. Don't expect when people start fighting back. That's what Antifa does. But that's why it's important you don't have reckless random groups. That's why it's important that there is some kind of authority. And I may be an anti-authoritarian, but I still understand the basics of authority. And I'll give you a simple example. Right? Everything I explained with Enrique Tarrio and the Proud Boys, how he might be like, yo, guys, chill, don't do that. They'll say, okay, because they respect authority and loyalty. They can walk away whenever they want. They can do whatever they want. They just respect him when he says, don't do this. Antifa doesn't do that for anybody. They don't respect any authority, so they destroy things and it makes them look bad. Well, because they are bad, because there's no way to control what they're doing. And therein lies the problem. We shouldn't have any clashes in the street. But on one side, you have Trump supporters waving little American flags, and for the most part, a tendency to be under control. And on the left, for the most part, a tendency to be out of control. And that's why it's very easy. And they say, Tim, why don't you talk about the right-wing extremists? I will, when you see them. I've did several videos on the arrests of these right-wing extremists. I don't even want to say right-wing, because what does that even mean? Laissez-faire capitalists, traditionalists? I don't know. But racial supremacists and whatever, the guys getting arrested in the military, I've done several videos on these guys. It's just a problem for the left in that they're the ones committing the violence almost all of the time. Well, there you go. I hope these people who got hit are okay. We'll see what happens with this woman. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I will see you all then.